Okay. We got a special topic today that is something I probably get asked about at least a few times a week. And it's this idea of how do we help someone that we care about get motivated, right? And it comes from such a good place. We all care about people. And I want to see, my kids. I want to see my wife. I want to see my employees. I want to see the people that I work with. I want to see them grow and thrive. We understand how essential it is, right? To be motivated, to change. And when you see someone languishing, right, you see someone that they just are struggling, they're stuck in their ways, they're refusing to budge, right, or any of those things, it's painful, right? It's very difficult to see someone go through that. And so, there's this desire to want to know what can we do to light a spark under them, right, to help them to find this motivation. What can we do to help them change? So we're going to talk about that today. And we're going to talk about what you can do and what you can't do. I'm going to start off with a little a quote, and it's funny, this topic already, even just today, right? There was a Marco Polo. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Marco Polo, but that today about, hey, how do I help someone to change something they're doing, right? So there was a question that was laid out. I think we both heard that call.
Yeah.
And then I got this quote from a good friend. It comes from Phil Jackson, arguably one of the greatest coach motivators of all time. And so he had this quote, and it looks like it's from an article, has extrinsic motivation left the building. And it says, I do not motivate my players. You cannot motivate someone. All you can do is provide a motivating environment, and the players will then motivate themselves. So love that quote, and would love to talk about what I believe he means in that regard. Of how you can create an environment that helps people to tap into motivation, right? This is huge. If you are a human being and you care about people, right, this isn't a topic that has relevance to you. So, but let me ask Mr. David Osk, as we're introducing this concept, what does it elicit for you, and what are some thoughts you have?
Yeah, I think it's to watch somebody feeling stuck, right? I mean, full well that they're like, if someone is just kind of, whether it's failing to launch in life, right? You see people that are in their 20s, early 20s, that kind of stuff, and they're just kind of failing to launch. A lot of it is they just lack a sense of direction, but then they lack confidence and all kinds of stuff. But I think one of the reasons our hearts go out to anybody like that, especially those that, are close to us, is a lot of us have been there, right? We've had times where we feel stuck, and we know what it's like to be on the other side. We know what it's like to get through that. So there is, I think, just a natural desire just to help and say, hey, if you do these types of things, or, there's these activities, that kind of stuff, boy, you can get through this a lot quicker than you think. So yeah, great topic.
And would love to invite, right, so anybody that is listening to this, anybody, whether it's live or later, how you might be able to relate to this, and what you found works, or, oftentimes what you found does not work. What are the things that you find that's just really backfired? So would love to hear from you, or any questions you might have. I actually got asked to speak on this a few years ago for in front of a pretty large organization. And it was for NAMI, for people who have family members that are struggling with mental illness. And so, these were parents, these were family members, these were spouses who were saying, I've got someone that I love dearly, and I see them making destructive decisions, right? And I'm trying to help them, to find motivation, to stick with the therapy, medications, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And man, it was supposed to be a 45-minute talk. And ended up being, I think I stayed for like 2.5 hours afterwards because of all the questions that people had. And it was fascinating. I actually got asked, I think I was the first guest speaker that they ever actually asked to come back a second time. So obviously I must have not bombed, but fascinating, right? And the pain in people's voices, right? As they're like, I love my spouse, I love my daughter, I love my son, whatever, so much. Right. I just want to help. And I know what I'm doing is not helping, right? We're creating friction. We're constantly butting heads. And so I see this. One of the things you want to avoid is what we call psychological reactance, right? And this is a tough one to avoid. And psychological reactance happens whenever essentially someone feels like their autonomy is being removed from them. So, you tell someone, hey, I need you to do this. Hey, you should do this. That doesn't mean that we can't put in clear requests. Of course we can, right? That's actually healthy. But when you start telling someone that they have to do something, when you start kind of badgering them and telling them, right, this is what you have to do, you need to do all these things, there is a formula that you can use that is designed to kind of, avoid or as a workaround on this. But psychological reactance, right? The minute that someone feels like, hey, this isn't my choice, I feel like I've been given a chore, an obligation, homework, a task, even if they know it's something that's healthy for them, right? Even if it's something that they enjoy and they want to do, they will start to resist it, and you will create this resistance. And the more that dynamic comes in place, the resistance will get stronger and stronger and grow. I saw this interestingly with my daughter. She plays the piano, and she absolutely loved, it was her choice. We wanted to make sure she was motivated. We ask as part of building grit. One of the things we try and do in this family is if you're committed to something, that you stick with it, right? There's no quitting. And so she was really motivated. We bought her a piano. We got her a great teacher, and she was so intrinsically motivated, right? She was asked to practice 5 days a week, and she would put in 7. And we didn't have to ask her. She'd self-initiate. But there was a period of time where she had to miss 2 practices because of one was a birthday party that she had to go to. The second one, she was sick, and she got out of her routine. And so then we started to remind her, hey, Avery, remember, you got to go practice. You told the teacher you'd do this. And all of a sudden it was this slight shift, and we didn't even recognize that happened, right? At first. And she started to kind of push back. Well, I don't want to go practice right now, and then gradually over 2 weeks, I don't like piano anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. And we started experiencing this really strong resistance. And we're like, what in the world happened? And so it dawned on me, somehow in this, she feels like her autonomy has been taken away. We need to back off, stop reminding her to go do this, and need to allow her to self-initiate. And we did that, and it was amazing. Within a very short period of time, she rediscovered her desire, and now she's back to going up to her room on her own, finding the motivation. But that psychological reactance, it's subtle on how it can kick in. I don't know. Can you relate to that at all?
Oh yeah, on a real basic level, right? You walk up to somebody and grab them by the shirt and pull towards you. I mean, it's there. I mean, natural reaction, is to pull back immediately. So I think that, yeah, I mean, it's amazing how true that is on a very knee-jerk reaction kind of, instinctual level. Like if somebody's pushing me, no way, I'm not doing that. And it doesn't matter if it's, hey, come into the bank vault and walk out with $1 million. Don't tell me what to do. That kind of thing. I mean, we even joke around, joke about that around the house. Don't tell me what to do. But yeah, I totally get it.
And you see, right? Like there's micromanagers out there. There's people who, and there's kind of this fallacy, right? I can see it happen in a family, kind of environment or culture. I certainly see it in work culture, where there's this belief, I have to stay on top of this person, right? If I don't tell them, then they just won't do anything. And the problem is that, I've sometimes gone into a work organization and we've worked on this, and there is, right, this initial, as they pull back, right, that person's so used to being kind of told what to do, and that, right, that resistance doesn't just immediately go away usually. And so the person doesn't take immediate action. And then the person, the micromanager, the parent, whoever it is, right, they say, see, I knew it, right? I backed off and they're not doing anything. So I need to double down on, telling them and micromanaging them in that. And it just creates this awful dance, right, of conflict. I got to constantly be watching them. I got to be on them. They resist it. The more they avoid, the more this person, it creates we call it distance pursuer dance. And it's really unpleasant. And it doesn't benefit anyone, even if the person does the work, right? Even if you do get them to do their homework, if you get them to do the work, they're doing it with a sense of like begrudgingly, right? They're certainly not doing it with a commitment to excellence. They're doing it often with a sense of resentment, and you're kind of burning that relationship along the way too. Does that make sense?
Oh man, and I think there's who knows of the untold damage, right? Where you've had someone who's really black and white, maybe as a parent, right, saying it's my way or the highway. They're not going to take the time to just quite understand what's going on and maybe think of a third option here on how to help somebody get unstuck. It's get your butt moving, or you're out of here, whatever that is.
Yep.
And it's amazing, really, what type of damage that can do. By the way, I want to say something too. I like the fact that you just brought up at the very beginning, possible, mental health issues, that kind of stuff. And sometimes it's, everybody's got something going on, right? Everybody's, kind of fighting a battle. And quite often, whether it's in a workplace setting, you're trying to, motivate another coworker, that kind of thing, or your kids, that kind of stuff. I find, that there's a bit more typically under the hood, if you will. If someone is perpetually kind of stuck and just, in that mode of, yeah, I'm probably not going to do that. And, no, I'm not going to do that either. No, and just kind of consistently letting themselves down and letting other people down and that kind of thing. So I think it's just good to acknowledge that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, what would you suggest? Like, do you have some, I've got some ideas and some thoughts, but how do you work around this? So how do you avoid psychological reactance? How do you, right? You still have a relationship, again, whether this is a owner, leader, boss, or employee, whether it's, your kids, whether it's, but you have things that you need for them to do, expectations that you have for them. How do you convey those where it's not going to create the psychological reactance, but the expectations are super clear and it helps them to, to do their work? Any thoughts on that?
Obviously, here I am sitting in my office at my house, and when I think about having teenagers and that kind of stuff, yeah, there's moments where, that's front and center. And I think the thing that's really, I don't know, I think the most powerful thing, it's like this caught versus taught thing, right? Creating an environment where there's a possibility to latch onto an idea or a frame of mind or something that just feels better, as opposed to, wise old dad saying you should do this, that kind of stuff. So part of it is, I got to say, I need to be looking in the mirror. I need to be looking at the way I'm operating my life. So whether that's coworkers and colleagues, right? Or my wife and children, it's like, I better make sure that I'm living my life in such a way that isn't turning them off, because I can be saying one thing, but they hear another because of the way that I'm living.
Yeah.
And so I think just to kind of talk openly about those things and kind of keep the air clear, that kind of stuff, I think is really important. And I talk about my my struggles with that, being unmotivated and that kind of stuff once in a while. We're human, so we need to be keep it real, that kind of thing. So that's kind of the first thing that comes to mind anyway.
That was a big part of the message, right, that I ended up delivering, was just, you focus on what you can control. So, and the more that you lead by example and the more that you're focused on making healthy decisions, right, and doing that, that alone, right, staying in a healthy place. Because it can be very difficult when someone is really stuck, right, and they're really, just kind of set in their ways. And like you said, whether there is a depression or they're just really struggling with motivation, it has a tendency then to bring both people down, right? So when you get overly focused on them and they've got to change, and all my energy and focus is on, helping them to change, all of a sudden, both people can end up getting really stuck. There's something that we even call in psychology or coaching, right? It's called a process comment. And so sometimes I'll find myself working with a client and I'm like, man, I feel stuck right now. Like, I don't know where to go with this. I don't know what to do. And if I can catch myself in the moment, sometimes I'll realize, oh, I wonder if I'm feeling what they're feeling, right? I wonder if I've taken on some of their experience. And so you can reflect back and, hey, I'm feeling this way right now. And I'm wondering if at all that's something that you can relate to or something that you feel. And it's amazing. A good process comment is transformational. It's really, really powerful. So love what you had to say there.
Something else I was thinking too is I'm in some of the coaching that I'm doing, and obviously, going through your course, the power of a question, right?
Yeah.
It is just, especially when someone knows that you care for them, right? I love this idea of asking a what question as opposed to a why question, right? If I ask a why question, they feel like they have to explain themselves to me and they're beholden to my opinion of them. But if I ask a what question, hey, what would it feel like if you could, the old magic wand question, even if you could just wave a wand and be doing something that just made you come alive,
Yeah.
or participated in these things that you kind of know you quote unquote should, but you're just feeling stuck. Well, what would that look like and feel like? Maybe, is there something you need to add to that, or people or resources or something in your life you need to say no to, so you have some margin for these types of things? And so the power of the question, honestly, especially with open hands,
Huge.
you're not like, I mean, it really has to be, you understand they're in their process, and sometimes change, and I got to say for me especially, is really slow. So to
That's
give
right.
someone else the grace just to say, hey, I don't have any, unless they're doing something really destructive or something, right? But if it's just a matter of, hey, this is really irritating to me, and I mean, I need to give them the grace to live their journey, and yet love them in a way that makes sense. So I think the power of the question with a lot of grace just unlocks a lot of things. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Love it, man. I think you're two for two right now on to a good open-ended question. There's a concept known as motivational interviewing. And so a lot of times, this was, I think, originally they found the power of it in doing interventions. So with people that were struggling with alcohol and drugs, to try and get them to commit to taking action on, treatment. And so, but coming in from a place of non-judgment, of curiosity, but you're asking questions, right, that are open-ended, and that you're trying to help them to come to their own discovery, right?
Yeah.
And there's even a specific format, which actually does start with why, interestingly enough. But why might you want to do whatever, right? Why might you want to do your homework? Why might you want to take on this project? Why might you want to? The simple thing about putting in that word might, it gives
Yeah.
them autonomy, right? It gives them the possibility that they might not want to.
Yeah.
And so it really does. And it's amazing. There's a specific formula of like a set of 7 questions, and Dr. Michael Pantalone, I think it's a model he created. I will say I've tried using his specific formula, and it didn't work for me, right? That's part of the authenticity. I had to kind of play around with it and make it my own. And I've often then used this with, managerial teams, and it same thing, that they found initially it felt clunky, but the more they kind of played around with it and started to find their words for it, it
Yeah.
is game changing. But you start to ask, why might you want to? So then they're giving you the reasons on, why, what's the benefits in it for them. And then often a follow-up
Yeah.
question is, on a scale of like 0 to 10, how motivated are you, right, to make this change? And whatever their answer is, if they say a 2, oftentimes we then jump to what would we need to do to make that a 10, right? But then you're increasing resistance again. So you actually want to say, why wasn't it a 1, right? And so, and again, you're getting them to reinforce and rehearse. I know
Yeah.
this is good for me, and these are the benefits in it for me. And if
Yeah.
you can somehow tie it into their values, right? If you can somehow recognize, hey, I know you value security. I know you value whatever that thing is, right? That's where all of a sudden now it's going to really increase their sense of autonomy and help them to recognize that, hey, this is something that's good for me. They're going to take more ownership over it. What do you think
Yeah.
about that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. When you get back to, the who, that bedrock in yourself, obviously that this is so much of what your course talks about, in that when we discover, the things that I value, what's valuable to be my core values, right, that are different from the person next to me, you identify those things. It's fascinating when you start making decisions based on that.
Yeah.
And even when I think about, Parker and Kate, I I have worldview values, right, that I hope that they would ascribe to, because they're good with a capital G. At the same time, on a daily basis, especially at 15 and 16, they have to have a vocabulary of their own, and to define those words really for themselves at their maturity level, so that they have something to kind of latch onto their bedrock right now, right? 5 years from now, 10 years from now, it kind of morphs and changes and grows and deeper and deeper. But what's fascinating is it really doesn't necessarily change the paradigm, because if they find out what's valuable to them, they start acting in alignment with that, not
Yep.
what I tell them to.
Yeah.
Well, what happens? They kind of enjoy being themselves more, right? It kind of
It's
unlocks
good.
something. They start to feel that autonomy. They feel less caged, and it feels kind of motivating. Yeah, I chose to do this in my way, in my time, with the people that I enjoy spending time with, that kind of stuff. Something that we've even given them some liberty on is even, their schoolwork. We try to do most of it in the morning because it kind of works. At the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
time, there's times when they're doing it, at 10
Yeah.
o'clock at night. That's not for me, honestly. But in the grand scheme, if that's when they feel comfortable and relaxed to do something like that, I mean, why not? We don't need to have some rigid, rules around some things that just, are, that just don't need to
Yeah.
be there. And
Well,
then real quick, I was going to say one more thing about this idea of, enjoying being themselves. It kind of reinforces that joy. Then, what
yeah.
you talk about, it reinforces that same type of behavior, which grows those roots even deeper,
That's right.
into their own identity and that kind of stuff. So I think that to get someone to understand themselves will really get them unstuck. But we've got to be willing to kind of take our hands off, especially kids and employees on some level. I mean, as much as we can, and to let them work that out inside of themselves, but to help them, to guide them.
Yeah, love, right? I mean, ultimately, where we want anybody, we want to see them to consistently thrive, right? And see where they're growing, that they're taking initiative, right? They're owning it. So they need to find their intrinsic motivation for what it is that they're doing, right? And part of that is giving them autonomy, right? Is choosing to trust them. You're also kind of engaging a little bit of the Pygmalion effect, right? When you choose to say, hey, I trust you, I believe you're going to do this, that's kind of you're setting an expectation that they want to rise up and meet, right? So there's something that's really good about that versus when you micromanage and you are overly rigid, you put, start to, hey, if you don't do this time, you're not going to do it. You're creating a negative expectation, right? You're starting to, almost put limitations upon them. At the same point, right, that it can be healthy to say, hey, I'm going to give you some flexibility and leeway in how you're going to do this, right? I want you to find what works best for you. But also, I think part of what Phil Jackson was talking about is that when you set people up to really succeed and thrive, you are giving them a very, very clear expectation. Here's what I want from you, right? You're removing as much ambiguity, uncertainty, right, as possible and being super clear. This is the role I see you in. This is the expectation. This is what I need and want from you. And then you're helping them to recognize that they can do it, right? That you've assigned this to them because you believe in them. But it's amazing, right? When you start to remove, kind of lack of confusion, chaos, you remove uncertainty, how that then frees people up, where all of a sudden they're like, all right, I feel clear. I know what's expected of me. I know I've got the strengths and skills to do this, and they're ready to go out and crush it.
And I love it. And that's what you said at the very beginning, right? This create the environment where they, the soil has been watered, it's been nourished, right? They've got a place to grow.
Yeah.
But it comes from inside them. And I think one of the things that's kind of fascinating about the environment is just on a very basic level. If someone is feeling stuck, just to look at them and say, I believe in you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got what it takes. I mean, I see these things in you, to rise up, to be a butt kicker, just to get after it and to paint, paint on the canvas of today, right? You get to do anything that you want today. What do you want to do with it? With a lot of expectation and hope. It's your day. What do you want to do with it here? And how can I help you?
Yeah. So, I think along the lines of what you're saying, right? When you care about someone, when you see them for who they really are, right? And it's clear that, hey, this person's not just a taskmaster, right? They're not just here because it benefits them. It's going to help them, to get a promotion. It's going to help them, but like, no, they genuinely care about my well-being. They see me, they see the value of me. They want to see me succeed and thrive. It's amazing, right? And you can call someone out then when you know someone cares about you, right? You're more likely then to be held accountable by that person. In fact, when they call you out, you often appreciate it, right? There's a sense of, I know they're not just doing this to beat me up. I know they're not just doing this because they're an a-hole, right? But I know that they genuinely care about me. Some of the best teachers I've had have been real disciplinarians, right? They were harsh, but they also cared deeply, right? So I was able to take that discipline. I was able to take that and really, it was motivating because I knew they cared. So that's huge. The last thing I want to throw out here is just how we conceptualize kind of success or how we think about progress in regards to change. there's a theory or a kind of model of change. It's from Prochaska, and it's this 5-step kind of process where he says that, really we should be thinking about, where is a person currently at in their journey to change and grow, and getting them to move from one stage to the next should be thought of as success, right? That's progress. And your intervention, how you want to deal with them and motivate them, is contingent upon where they're at in this kind of framework or spectrum. So you said there's pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and then maintenance, right? So pre-contemplation, it's not even on their radar. Why do I need to change? They're not thinking about it at all, right? So obviously you got a ways to go to even get them to be able to start to recognize or see, why change might be good. Contemplation, they're starting to think about it. Maybe they've done a little bit of Googling or something like that. It's on their mind, but they haven't really done, much preparing for it. Preparation, right. Now they're actually putting some steps. Maybe they made a phone call to a coach. They've done, done a few things. Action, they're taking it. And maintenance is just, they've been doing it for long enough that the behavior is now set in, right? They've fully kind of changed. They've made progress. And it's just about making sure that they keep up with the routines and behaviors to maintain that. So, yeah. Have you heard of this model before? And just what do you think of in regards to?
Yeah. And what's fascinating, I have, I think it's really important, right? Even in the coaching, whatever schooling I've been kind of going through here lately, right?
Yep.
It always starts with, where are you? Where do you want to go? And where's the gaps? And there is a continuum, and I think a lot of us, boy, we better take the old humble pill, and understand if someone is stuck, we've been there. And
that's right.
It's really important to be like, wow, okay, I've been there. What would it look like to enter into that person's world and to help them get unstuck, or at the very least to help them understand, where are they right now? Yeah. And it may be, I don't give two rips about whatever you want, and it could be belligerent in the whole 9 yards. But to help someone even understand that, okay, that's at least some awareness of, hey, there's some lights coming on. I've got an understanding of something I'm standing on at this point to even make a decision. I've been around a lot of people who, and really early in my life, felt really stuck, but even lately I'm hanging out with some younger men who have been incredibly stuck. And I think probably, I would even use, words like depression and anxiety and stuff like that, where it's like, there's a lot going on. And at the same time, man, it's the only thing that's going to help someone get unstuck is some awareness, some encouragement, right? Some support. So they start to kind of see some daylight, get some hope, and then follow that progression, right? That spectrum is really important to understand where somebody's at.
I think it helps both the person, if I'm the one that's trying to help motivate someone to change, right? Kind of working with someone, but it can also help the person that's trying to change, right? To understand, hey, this is kind of a theory, because we often put pressure. We either put pressure on the other person, or we put pressure on ourselves that I'm supposed to go from, contemplation to maintenance, all in one big step, right? And that's just not how it works. We got to kind of move towards, and it's a process of resilience. It's a process of understanding why this is important, right? I mean, I think that's huge. This is more maybe for the person that's trying to change, right? For them to be able to discover, what am I doing? Why is this important? To what end? The more they can connect the desire to grow or change, right, to a purpose, to an intrinsic motivation that's important to them, man, that is massive. But yeah.
One word, when we first started talking about this subject, the word that I wrote down was invitation. And I feel like, whether you're in a corporate setting, or, even in the family, it's like, if I picture someone who's in flow state, right? They're in the zone. They have a really, really clear understanding of who they are. When their feet hit the floor in the morning, they're like, I'm on a mission here. I know the impact that I want to have, whether I'm on the phone, I'm selling something, I'm coaching, I'm at the gas station, I'm with my family. They have a really rich and a full sense of, okay, this is who I am. This is the dent in the universe that I want to have today. What's fascinating about that, you can tell people who might kind of have that appearance on the outside, but it's more egocentric. It's more desperate. It's more, hey, look at me kind of stuff. So I want to make a distinction. There's a big difference between someone being invited into a full life, into a peaceful life, into a rich life of meaning and impact, and someone who is, wanting to be the center of the universe, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So when I use the word invitation, it's an invitation by example. I'm hoping, and I'm trying to say that about myself. I hope I do this. An invitation into authenticity, right?
That's right.
An invitation into identifying with those things that are most powerful and precious to me, and just being that person, right? And obviously, after going through your course, that's what became absolutely crystal clear to me. And even still, right? This is a process of understanding and just entering into those deeper waters. But at the same time, I can't think of a better way to live. I don't think there is a better way to live.
So I love, I think we use the terminology that kind of that true north, right? And that part of that's about understanding what does motivate you, understanding how to be able to motivate yourself, right? But I think the more you are aware of, what motivates yourself, the more that you're putting in your own work and doing that own kind of inner size that we sometimes, refer to, it becomes so much easier then to lead others, right? You cannot lead others to places that you haven't gone yourself. And maybe someone could push back and say, well, here's an example, but by and large, that's a true statement. So if I'm trying to get my kids motivated, but I don't know how to motivate myself, right? Then I'm just going to end up compounding the frustration, right? Because I'm feeling the weight of their, on my employees. I had a client recently. It was a person who owns a huge construction business. They do a ton of money, and I've worked with a bunch of his clients, and had a lot of success. So high performing client or employee, who was just really resisting and really in a difficult place. And just as simple as helping him to get clear, right? I had him create a narrative. Why is this important to you? Put it in your own terms, your own language. They had this beautiful way that they wrote it. And within a week, right, that all of a sudden I got a call from the owner of the company. He's like, I don't know what in the world you did, but I don't need to say a word to him. He is self-motivated. He has shown up every day. He's putting in extra work, right? He is a rock star, and it's been a month, and it's been consistent. And it's just a matter of, right, asking the right questions, giving them that space, like you said, inviting them into it, helping them to find their own words, their own language, their own motivation, their own values in this. And there's
no other way to do it. It's not a, you know what I mean? We can put up all types of frameworks and paradigms and motivational posters and all kinds of stuff. And again, I've got all that kind of stuff around me.
Yeah.
But it's me, right?
Yeah.
It's stuff that I've chosen for me, and I'm kind of an inspirational guy. I like this kind of stuff.
Yep.
But you're right. You can't motivate somebody from the outside. You can control them for a little while, right? Out of some manipulation and some fear and that kind of stuff. But man, if you want to have a culture in your home and whatever organization you're a part of or leading, everybody has to enter their own that own space where they bring what they bring with a full heart. They bring themselves, because it just feels great.
The very last thing that I'll say, and I know we gotta wrap up. Another thing that is tempting, right, is to want to motivate by putting external rewards. And sometimes, right, that can be very beneficial. Creating contingencies, bonuses, right, having someone on commission on those things. But, the research shows that even if you're doing that, understanding what's important to them, or understanding why a bonus is important to them, like what values, it give that person more freedom, right? Does it allow them to go on a vacation that they care about? So helping to understand what's the deeper motivation there, like what really is important to them, is huge. But I've even seen, in a mastermind group that I'm in, someone was trying to get their kids motivated to read. And so they said, I'm going to start offering, I forget, $5 a book or whatever. And I get it, right? I totally get how they set that up. But the problem is now the reason they're reading isn't for the joy of reading or for learning or bettering themselves. They're doing it strictly for that money, right? And whatever amount of money you're giving them, that's going to quickly lose the dopamine hit they get from getting it. And so you create a cycle, right, where the only reason they'll read is if there is an external reward. And eventually you're going to have to pay them more and more to do it. So it's really a bad long-term strategy or investment. You know, my kids even, I mean, they're young, but they do have a few chores, a few things they got to do around the house. And I told them, you will not get paid to do chores in this house. That is an expectation. As being a part of this family, this household, right? You're going to contribute. Now, you want to go and wash daddy's car, which, you know, they don't, but they do like lemonade stands. They create things and they sell it on Etsy. Like they do all kinds of really cool stuff, you know, and they love doing those things.
That's cool.
But as far as like contributing, reading books, you're going to do that because it's the right thing to do. You're going to read books because it's something, you know, that you love to do. And I'm not forcing my daughter. If she could, she'd spend literally all day reading. You know, my son is also excited, but putting the external nugget out there, or the, you know, kind of the carrot and the stick, has been proven, right, to be not a great long-term strategy and has a whole host of really negative things attached to it. So we'll kind of end it on there, but hopefully we gave a kind of a somewhat broad overview with some really specific examples of what you can do and what you should try and avoid, and helping to motivate someone you care about. And it really is a huge, I mean, if you care about someone, if you lead anyone, you know, ultimately you lead yourself. You know, this is something you're going to experience or face. And so hopefully we've put a few things out there that you can apply. And if not, if there's things that you want more information on, please reach out to us and let us know how we can be a great resource for you. All right, my man.
Thanks.
Great talk.
Yeah, man. Thank you.